We'll do the Maimer in Maimorim Melukotim in Chelik Dala. This is the 12th Maimer, the Maimer Bila Hamoves Lנצח. The Rebbe said this on Tuesday of Parshas Dvorim, the 5th day of Mנחem of, in the year Tovshin Chofei. And it says here in the note that the Rebbe said this was the day when the Rebbe finished saying Kaddish after the Rabbonis Hatzidkonis, Rebbe Silchana, the mother of Yibod L'chaim Tov Maruchim of the Rebbe, and the Yortzeit of the passing was, of course, on the Vav Tishrei. So, and it was a leap year, so the 11 months ended by the 5th day of that was 12 months. And then later on, they published the Maimer in a special booklet that came out for the 21st day of Adar, Tavshin Mem Ches. So that was the 30th day. It says this was for that Thursday, the Parshat Vayakil Pekudei, which was the 21st day of Adar, which is the end of the Shloshim. The Rebbetzin Rabbonis Hatzidkonis Mordechai Mushka, she passed away on Chov Beis Shvat, and 30 days later, Shloshim days, the Siyum HaShloshim was on Chov Aleph Adar. So they published this same Maimer that the Rebbe said at the end of the saying Kaddish for his mother, and the date that it was published is Tuesday, Vayakil Pekudei, Shnas Hakel, Shnas Tismach, Shnas Tovshin Memches. But anyways, the Pasuk, the Rebbe will do the Maimer inside. The Pasuk is from Yeshaya in Perik Chav Ches, Pasuk Ches. So over there, the Navi Yeshaya says that Bila Hamoves Lנצח, Umocha Havaya Likim Dimo Me'al Kol Panim, that death will be swallowed, meaning no longer existing forever, no more death. And then Umocha Havaya Elikim Dimo Me'al Kol Panim, and Hashem Elikim will erase the tears from all faces. There will be no more tears. There will be no more death, and there will be no more tears. Rebbe Marash in a Maimer that opens up with the same. This was said in the year Tafresh Chav Ches, and the Zeh Shala Osid Love Bila Hamoves Lנצח. Why is it that in the future to come, death will forever be swallowed no longer? Because as the Pasuk says in Zechariah, the spirit of impurity I will remove from the land. Since there is going to be no tumah, there is going to be no death. So what's the connection over here between death and tumah? That the reason why there won't be any more death is because there won't be any more tumah. And the Rebbe explains in the Maimer how death comes along with the idea of sin and what happened from the Chet Eitz Hadas, and the reason why there has to be death, because since the tumah, the klipa is mixed into kedusha through the Chet Eitz Hadas, if there would be life forever, then the klipa would be forever. The reason we need to have death is because we don't want, and it's not possible for the klipa to be forever. And what he did through the Eitz Hadas was to mix in the bad into the good. And that's why the Eibishter was concerned, says to Adam, he says that that he'll eat from, about Adam, that he will eat from the Eitz HaChayim v'Chai Lo'olam. Why? So what's the problem? But now, once you mixed in the bad, the Eitz Hadas, Toiv V'Ra, you mixed in the good with the bad, you can't have life forever, because that means that the negative, the death, the Tuma will live forever. Let's look inside. So we'll understand this by introducing the reason that the reason of what's explained in the pasuk, the Lekamon, later on, shall yidei chet eitz hadas nase misa ba'olam, that how did death come to the world? Originally, there would be no death in the world. Everybody would live forever. But it is through the sin of Eitz Hadas which brought about death into the world. I know. So that means Shamisa v'chet Eitz Hadas shayochim ze lezeh, that death and the sin of the Eitz Hadas have a connection to each other, which means that if there is a sin, there's Eitz Hadas, then you get Misa. That brings Misa in the Olam. So what's the connection? Well, Inyanhu, the idea is like this. Through the Chet Eitz Hadas, there became a mixture of good and bad. The bad was there before too, but it wasn't mixed in with the good. The Metzia said, existence of Ra, of bad, was there. It existed even before the sin. But in the beginning, the Ra was separated from the good. Okay, and as it's known, this is from the Torah of the Arizal, that from the creation in the beginning, the dwelling place of the Klippas was below the worlds of Kedusha. There was a separation. There was the world of Kedusha and the place where the Klippas were below. And through the sin of the Eitz Hadas, Nase Taruvos Toivara, that brought about a mixture of Toivara. So after the Chet Eitz Hadas, there became a Taruvos of Toivara. There became a mixture of good and bad. And that Taruvos came B'chol Ha'olam, in all world. In all of the world. Shahara me'urev b'hatoiv, v'hatoiv b'hara. That bad is mixed into good, and good is mixed into bad. To the extent asher ein toiv b'loi ra, ve'ein ra b'loi toiv. There's no good that doesn't have a little bit of ra mixed into it, and there is no bad that doesn't have a little good mixed to it. The ra is toiv ra, ein toiv b'loi ra, ein b'loi toiv. So this also explains the pasuk. Eibishter says, "V'ato pen yishlach yodei v'lokach gam me'etz hachayim v'ochal v'chai lo'olam." Now, lest he sends his hand, and he will also take from the eitz hachayim, and he will eat and live forever. So why is there such a concern that Adam will take from the eitz hachayim, live forever? But he was born to live forever. Creation of man from the beginning was so you should live forever. Actually, the reason why he was commanded not to eat from the Eitz Hadas was so that he shouldn't die. That he shouldn't die, because otherwise he would live forever. As the Pasuk says, as the Pasuk says, don't eat from the Eitz Hadas. Don't eat from it. Because the day you eat from the Eitz Hadas, you will surely die. So it is the Eitz Hadas that brought about Misa. So my ichpat sheyoichal me'etz hachayim v'hi chai lo'olam. So what do we care that he's going to eat from the Eitz hachayim? The Eibishter says ben yoichal v'chai lo'olam, and he will live forever. That was the destination to begin with. So Bavayir Admur Hazokin, so the Alter Rebbe explains the Mekiv on Shal Yidei Chet Eitz Hadas Nis Arev Rabbe Odom. Since through the Chet Eitz Hadas there was evil that got mixed into the person Lochein, and therefore the Pasuk says Ve'ato pen yishlach. Now we have an issue. After the Chet Eitz Hadas, in which there was Ra mixed into the person, Yesh Lachshesh, we have to worry. Maybe he's going to send his hand and he's going to take from the Eitz HaChaim and live forever. Because when the person is going to be living forever, then the bad, which is mixed into after the Eitz Hadas, which there's a mixing of Ra, will also have an eternal existence, will exist forever. So based on this, we can say, so why is it that through the Eitz Hadas brought about the Misa B'Olam? That is for that reason, so that there should not be a lasting for the Ra. So that's why there was Misa. So the Eibishter brought about Misa because of the Ra. The Yesh Loimar, and the Rebbe says we can say it's not like two separate things, that because there's going to be lasting klippah, so we need to have Misa, but actually the Misa comes as a direct consequence from the Chet Eitz Hadas. Yesh loymar da Misa ba'olam shenasa naseso al yidei Chet Eitz Hadas, that the Misa in the world that came about through the Chet Eitz Hadas, he mesuveves machet atzmei, that's a consequence. It's a result from the sin itself. The idea is the inyan hachayis hu b'kedusha davke, that the idea of life, vitality, is only in kedusha. As opposed to the bad and impurity, which are hepech kedusha, opposite the kedusha, hey mavis. The Pasuk says. So that is Ra and Tuma are Mavis, and Chayis and life, vitality is Kedusha. Since through the sin of Eitz Hadas, he got a mixture of Ra. Ra is Mavis by definition. It's not just because, like we said before, that we can't have the Ra exist forever, but the Ra by definition is Mavis. So since Alidei Chet Eitz Hadas, this Arev Rabba Odom, there's a mixture of Ra by the person, which is Mavis Ruchni, a spiritual death. From this, it evolved also the literal death. This is why we say in the future to come, death will be swallowed up forever. Since then, the Ra will be negated, which is the spiritual death. There will no longer be spiritual death. No longer be Ra. As he brought down that the Eibishter will from Zechariah, that the Eibishter will remove Ruach HaTuma Avim min Haaretz. So, that way, there's not going to be literal, there's not going to be any more death. The Mavis will be swallowed up literally, and no more death, because there's no more Tuma, there's no more Mavis, there's no more Ra, no more Ra and Tuma, and that's why, because Mavis comes out as a result when there was Taruves, and he has Ra, that's why there is Mavis. But if there is no more Ra, then there's going to be no more Mavis. Ois beis. Hine hatam al zeh shedavke lo sidlova yizbatel hara. What is the reason that it's specifically in the future to come, the evil will be negated, will be bottled, will be done away? The mavis orichni ubemela gama mavis kipshutei, the spiritual death, and therefore also the physical, literal death is because at that time in Losid Love will be a revelation of a very great light. That relative to this light, automatically all the opponents are negated, become bottled, they cease to exist. The Bible explains the Maimer Dagam Shagam Bisman Shabeis Hamikdash Ayakayim. Although that even though during the time when the Beis Hamikdash was in existence, Bisman by Yisrishin, especially during the time of the first Beis Hamikdash, in which it was in its full glory, the Beis Hamikdash Rishon. Balach has kama v'kama, and for sure, how much more so? In the days of King Shlomo, in which the moon was in its complete, because Shlomo HaMelech was the 15th king. That's like the moon on the 15th day. Then the moon is a full moon. So that's it says in the Zohar, that was in the days of Shlomo, was the height of Kedusha, height of revelation. It was a tremendous light. So why are we saying that then we still had death? But what is going to be the light greater than the time of even the Beis Hamikdash? Because we see that in the times of Shlomo there was a tremendous great light. And because of that revelation, all the nations were subjugated, became nullified in front of Shlomo. This happened not through war. He didn't have to wage war. They were just put up b'shalom. It was in a way that without war. And that's why he's called Shlomo Lashon Shalom. Because there was peace in his day, there was no wars in his days. And as the pasuk says in Divrei Yomim, the Rebbe brings down that Shlomo Yeshmoi v'Shalom v'Sheket etein al Yisrael b'Yomov. So there was peace. So what that means, that there was a tremendous light and revelation, and that's why all the nations were bottled to Shlomo. But yet that does not reach the level, the way it's going to be lost in love, where the light is going to negate all negative forces totally. Because then, while they were all bottled, but yet they remained in their mitzias, it didn't take away the metzias of the goyim. Mikol makoyim, Hagilush Hoya Bimei Shloima, the revelation that was during the days of Shloima, Hoya Ba'if, and it wasn't a way Hoya Adayin Mokim the Nikas Achitzonim. There was still room for nurturing of the outers. Elo Nikos Amos Hoysorak Machoraim the Kedusha Below Hoya Lehem Achiza Bipnimius. They were nurturing from the behind of Kedusha, but they did not have any holy pnimius, which means that the great light did not allow for them to get a nurturing in a direct way, in a pnimius way. So they had to get in a back way, but there was still a nurturing. There was still unikas for the chitzonim. There was still a nurturing for them. Shloimar, and the Rebbe says now that this can also be expressed. This is also expressed in the fact that the kings, the Malchus Shvo, they remained kings even though they were subjugated to Melech Shloimeh. That means that they still had their mitzias. Shloimar, the Zeshebi Mei Shloimeh Hoya Adayin Mokim Nenikas Achitzonim. This, that is in days of Shloimeh, there was still room for the nurturing of the Chitzonim. Niker Gam Be'oifen Habitl Behagoyim Shenisbatl Lefonov. That can also be recognizable in the way that the nations were subjugated, those who were subjugated before Shloimeh. For example, the Malchus Shvo, notwithstanding the fact that while she was in her land, she only heard about Shloimeh, so she had a subjugation, a little subjugation. Because of that subjugation, she came to Shloimeh. So that was, in the beginning, just hearing about Shloimeh brought her to Shloimeh. And then after she came to Shloimeh, after she came to Shloimeh and she saw his wisdom, and that way she was subjugated before him, as it says in the Navi, she had no more spirit in Melachim Aleph in Perik Dalet Pasik Hey. So that the bittul was to such an extent that she had no more spirit left. So, notwithstanding all this bittul that is described here, and yet she still was a queen. She was the king at that time. If you say to Mizu, and more than this, Shloimeh himself honored her with great honor, as in the pasuk over there. So that is at the time of Shloimeh Melech, as opposed to the revelation of the future to come. Is going to be in a way, there will not be any nurturing for the outers at all. Even not in a way from behind. So they won't have any nurture anywhere to sustain themselves. So then the Ra will be bottled totally, and Bilam of Lenzach, and death will be swallowed forever, no more death. So now the Rebbe is going to explain, so what's the difference between these two levels of bittul, the way it was by Shloimeh and the way it was Bilos Lovi. So now the Rebbe continues to bring down from the Maimer the difference between a level of staying away from evil and being disgusted with evil, moyes bera, to become repugnant from evil. There is a difference in the level of a complete tzaddik has no connection to evil at all, where someone who is not a tzaddik yet has still, while he is staying away from bad, but he still has some in it. This is the difference between the way it was in the days of Shlomo and the way that it is La'asid Lava. Let's look inside. To understand the difference, what was the revelation during the days of Shlomo? From that Gilui, there was still room for the nurturing of the outer, so they were still in existence while they were bottled, but they were still in existence. Okay, let it be only from the level of the hind, not direct nurturing, but there was still nurturing there. And lehagilui de la'asid lavai, and the gilui that will be in the future to come, shemitzad gilui zeh lo yia lohem yenika klal. From this revelation that will be la'asid lavai, there will be no nurturing at all. Is mevayer b'hamaimer, who explains in the maimer shual derech hachiluk ba'avodas ha'odam. This is similar to the difference in the service of man. Bein ha'avoida de surmeira leha'avoida de moyesbra. There is a service of a person who is at the level that he stays away from bad, and there is a service which is moyesbra. He despises Ra. The sur mera, when we say that he stays away from bad, hu shematche sara, he pushes away the Ra. But there is no hatred to the bad in essence. He doesn't hate in essence Ra, but he pushes away the Ra. Because he's only pushing away the Ra. Even though in actuality that he does push away the Ra, there is still remains by the person room for the Ra. And the fact that he gives some space for the Ra, and he doesn't completely despise it, that means that he actually has a little bit of a love for it. To the extent that in a hidden way, he has some sort of a love to the Ra. As the Tanya explains when he discusses the tzaddik who is not a complete tzaddik, and he says because he doesn't hate the Ra totally, that means that there is a little bit of a love to it. As opposed to when the person despises Ra, that means that he totally despises the evil, which is the level, the dargis of a tzaddik gomur, of a complete tzaddik. So the person has no allowance, doesn't allow for any space for the Ra. Because not only will it not give it any space, he despises it. He hates the bad. And he rejected, he despises it, total hatred and total repugnant to. This is similar to the difference between the revelation that was in the times of Shlomo to the Gilui that will be in the future to come. The revelation that was in the days of Shlomo, although that even relative to this revelation is battling kol hamanagdim, all the opponents are negated. Similarly, as we talk in the avodah of the person, the avodah of surmera, he still pushes away the ra. But nevertheless, there is still place for the outers to nurture. At least they come from the level they nurture from the hind of Kedusha. As opposed to the revelation that will be in the future to come. That is similar to one who despises the evil in total. There is no allowance for anything that's opposite of Kedusha. So there is a major difference between whether you just push it away or you hate it. If you push it away, you still allow for it to a certain degree. But if you hate it, you don't allow for it at all. Yes, and we can add to it based on what it explains in Tanya. In Tanya, displays that it says that this is actually measured that that the great hatred that you have to the other side and how much you despise the evil, that is valued relative to how great your love to Hashem. The more you love Hashem, the more you despise the other side. And the more the lead, if you don't despise fully, then you don't love Hashem fully. So hachiluk ben sur meira lemoyes bara, since we measured love also, so it turns out that the difference between staying away from evil and despising evil, it's not just how much you're negating, you're rejecting the ra. This also on this hinges how great and what way of his love to Hashem. If that it's a much greater love when you despise the ra, and is not as a great love when you only push away the ra, or you're staying away from that. Based, since we are extending it also to the positive, to the love of Hashem, this will sweeten the comparison, the chiluk zeh. This difference between staying away from evil and despising evil, to the difference between the revelation that was in this and the revelation that will be in the future to come. So why is there a difference in the revelation in the Shloima and the Asilavai, how much to negate the Ra? So we said before that the revelation at the time of Shlomo, there was still room for the outers to nurture, like Malka Shva, so you still remained a Malka. But Mashenka Begilu de Losid Love, there will be no Ra at all. Ruchatuma Avir Min Haaretz. Umitzad. So now, because we're hinging it on the positive, on how much love, so the reason why there is the difference in the negative, how much rejection there is of Ra, is based on the level of Umitzad Achilik Shabahem Bedargas Va'ifan Hoyer Vagili. There's a difference in the times of Shloima and Losid Lavai in the step and in the way of the light and revelation, because it's all about revelation, and it's the revelation which brings about how much rejection or how much negation of the other side, whether like Shloima, which is still remained a Yenika, at least Bichitzonius, at least Mebchina Sachurayim, or the total destruction, as we say, as Ruach HaTuma Abiminos. So now the Rebbe is going to explain that all of these revelations that we're talking about, the greatest of revelation, the sinner to the revelation, is going to be in the Osilov. It's going to be in a very powerful way. Has to do with our work today as we prepare for the Osilov. Dalet v'hine yadua. It's known Shekol Hagiluim the Losid Love, that all the revelations that will come in the future to come, Kaluyim, B'Maseinu V'Avedisenu Achshov, they hinge on our actions, our service nowadays in Golus. Move on. So from this it's understood that to reach to the level, the fact that in the future to come there will be this revelation that doesn't allow space for the outers to nurture, which is bila hamovas lנצח. So how is there going to be such a revelation? Is explained in the Maimer that Yidei Yisrael soinim esara betachlis hasina, through the fact that the Yidden hate evil in total hatred, despise it totally. That brings about above also that Hashem says, I hate Esav. That's the negative. That's the chitzonim, betachlis hasina, and total sinners. So it's the work of the Yid to hate the negativity, betachlis hasina, that brings about lemailo as Esav sanesi betachlis hasina. Umetzad sina zu, and because of this sina, that's why the spirit of Tuma Hashem will remove from the land, which is bila hamovas lנצח. The death will be swallowed forever and no longer be. That is through our avoida of hating Ra betachlis hasina, that brings about a Esav Sanesi, which brings about the Bila Hamovas Lonetza. Since the Eibishter saw that tzaddikim are very few, as the Gemara Yuma says in the Alter Rebbe brings around in the beginning of Tanya, especially this level of hating Ra totally is a level of a tzaddik gomer. So how do we say that we prepare for that level? Even if we talk about a level of an average person, the expectation, it's known, the expression, wish you would be a benini. So here we're talking to really prepare for this level. You got to be a tzaddik gomer. And we are saying even a benini will have a hard time. But so this idea that death will be swallowed forever is by all Yidden. So meaning that we all need to prepare for this, not only the tzaddik gomer. So from this is understood that this service to despise the evil with total hatred, that is also able to be also by the average person. Even from those that are on a lower level than a benis. Each and every person has special times, during the davening, or when he's learning Torah, or when he's doing a mitzvah, in which he's very careful. Each one has times, davening times, learning times, or when doing a special mitzvah. Even at the time that he's occupied himself in optional matters, but he's doing it for the name of Hashem, for the sake, and for sure, which is even a higher level. When he's all of his ways, he knows Hashem. So each one still has the ability to be on the level of that tzaddik gomer, to despise the evil. At that point, at that hour, at that time, he gives his entire entity, his entire being, he gives away. He totally gives himself over to godliness. In that way, he has no connection to the garments of the repugnant garments, anything to do with klippas. He doesn't, at that point, in that stage, when he's davening and learning or doing his mitzvah and the chol trachecha de'eyu, he is totally connected. Just like a complete tzaddik. Now, he changes later on, since this union above, it is lasts forever. That's why through this comes the revelation that doesn't give any room for chitzonim. The Eibishter's Aseis of Sonesi, the Bila Hamovas Lanezach, to swallow death for eternity. Hey, so, and this is the meaning in the pasuk Bila Hamovas Lanezach. The death has been swallowed forever. The Kol Zman Shale Nishlemu Adayin Habirurim. For as long that all this sorting out has not yet been completed. And good and evil are mixed one with the other. That would include also in the time that the Beis Hamikdash was in existence. And even during Shloima, when the moon was in its whole state, it was the 15th, considered, as we brought down from the Zohar before. Yesh Inyan Hamisa, there is still the idea, there is the concept of death. So Yesh Inyan Hamisa, so there is still the Inyan of Misa. We have to have Misa in order not to sustain the klippas, as the Rebbe explained. So as we said before, there should be no sustaining of the Ra. There is a Vizeu Gam Hatam, and this is also the reason Shegam Hatzadikim. Shegam Tzadikim Yachzuru La'aforum Sho Achas Koidim Tchiyas Hamesim. That also the Tzadikim, as the Gemara in Shabbos and in Zohar say that they will go back one while before Tchiyas Hamesim. The Hagam she'ein rimo sheletas bahem, even though tzaddikim, the rimo, the maggots, the composition of the body does not dominate the bodies of the tzaddikim. Until that last hour that precedes Tchiyas Hamesim. So their bodies was in existence for hundreds and thousands of years. And yet, before Tchiyas Hamesim, they have to go back to become dust. The body needs to disintegrate and go back to the dust as it was before creation. So why is that? Since through the sin of Eitz Hadas, there came in a mixture of evil in all of the world. Also, the bodies of tzaddikim will require this refinement. As opposed to the future to come, after the resurrection, when it will be the spirit of impurity, I will remove from the land. There will be no death then. Also, the body will live eternally because there's no problem. We're not sustaining tumah. There's no tumah there. It's only the body without the mixture of the taruvis of toivara. The gam lehadeya the mashikosu kanar ben meya shona yamusuki pshutoi. Even according to the opinion, which is Rabbi Chanin and the Braces Rabbah, when it says a youngster, old 100-year will die, that means that there will be death. And that opinion says it's kipshute, means literally. That only is as it pertains to the Bnei Noach. But as it is connected to the Yidin, lנצח, death will be totally swallowed and non-existent forever. He say to Mizu, and even more than this, the Gam Hamisa Shetia Ledeyazu, even the death that according to this opinion will be by the Bnei Noach, Hiloi Misa Mamish. We're not talking about actual death, Elon Nifila, but we're talking about to falling down, the Nafman, the Nafel Medarge Ikri Meis. As it says that one who falls down from his level is called mace. So therefore, if they're not at the same level, that means mace. As explained in the Maimer, that through the sparks of kedusha that have been swallowed in them, they will be sorted out and they will go up above. And then the evil part in them, gufa gashmi shalahem, their physical body, shenikra b'shem ra, which is called ra be'erech l'nitzutzis ha'kedusha shaboy, relative to the sparks of kedusha in him, yipur l'mato, that will fall below. So even though the Rebbe says, the opinion says it's kipshute, but it doesn't mean kipshute. It means that they're going to fall. The bodies of the goyim will fall from the level because the kedusha will be elevated and it will be just the ra, meaning evil, meaning relative to the kedusha of the soul. They will fall down below it. This is only by the nations of the world. Can be Yisrael as opposed to by Yidden. Yisal gam haguf, also the body will be elevated. Shagam haguf yozun meruchnius k'moy haneshama, that also the body will nurture from spirituality just as the soul. Not only would it be like the soul, the body will be higher than the soul. As the pasuk says, Nekeva to Soviv Gever, the feminine will circle the male, which means it will be higher than the male. And the body and the soul, the body is considered the feminine, and the soul the masculine, and the body will be on a higher level than the soul. This all will be in actuality, will be gili openly lamata masora tfachim, below 10 tfachim, reality begeula hamitis v'ashlema, in the true and complete redemption, al yidei Mashiach tzidkenu, through our righteous Mashiach, bekorev mamish, very soon.